Hi, my name is Chelsea Foley and I'm with Agriculture in the Classroom, Newfoundland and Labrador. Today we're going to be showing you some videos about farms across the province. First, we're going to be showing you Campbellton Berry Farm. So this is the Thornleys in central Newfoundland and Labrador. So they make some of my favorite things, blueberries.
Hi, my name is Andrew Thornley and you're here on Campbellton Strawberry Farm. We don't only produce strawberries, but that's our major product. When I first started berry farming, well, it was a family farm and I just grew up here. Started, basically as soon as I could walk and get out into the field, I was out, helping mom and dad and doing this and doing something else. And I even remember, I think I might have been 10, and mom and dad paying me $1 an hour to go weed out some vegetables. So it's kind of, started small, and then, as I got older, I got more involved with it, and I really enjoy being outside. Working with your hands, and also just the reward at the end, being able to do something and see the result in the end. Well, the start of the process for growing strawberries, we do have to make sure that our ground is clean, trees and rocks and sticks and everything taken out. If you want to have good ground as well, so it's not a gravelly type of ground, you want organic matter in there because the strawberries really like that organic matter. And usually if we got a nice clean field that we start with, we'll kind of run grid lines to kind of give you a straight line to go by. And I'll take the tractor with the implement on the back, piece of equipment, and you'll just kind of scuff or scratch the ground into a line so that you can see a nice straight line down the field, and that gives you something to follow when you turn around and relay this black plastic down. Because we really need those aisles straight, because a lot of our equipment has to follow down those beds, and if those beds are doing this, you'll end up running over all the edges of the beds or the plastic, and you'll break the plastic, and then you got to either go in and fix it, or you'll have weeds come up through all the holes. And I mentioned about our plastic here. And you can see that it really does cut down on our weeds a lot. And right alongside this plastic, you can see this white, what we call row crop cover. That's mostly used to bring stuff on early. And you can see it's just kind of a cottony material. It's pretty thin, and you can more or less see through it. And what it does is it actually acts as kind of a greenhouse. When we put that over, it'll help heat that up early, so that if we want to bring on an early crop or bring the strawberries on earlier than normal, if we put that on, it would bring them on early. And you can see right here how we water the rows. This pipe is plugged in with a little special connector, and there's two of these. They run up buried. They run into here, and you can see the two pipes feeding in under this black plastic. And these will just drip water and soak the root zone basically right under the plant. And the plastic, not only does it help stop the weeds, it'll help stop water evaporation. Well, there's not really too much of a typical day on the farm except for kind of a routine. But now in the open season, it's 6 till 6, like my schedule more or less. And I'm checking on pickers, then I come down and check on U-pick fields to make sure customers are finding berries okay. When fields start to get a bit scarce, sometimes we have to switch U-pick fields to another one because one will get picked out, so we switch to another one so we can get some more berries picked off. And then there's also in between, during the week, there's certain times when I have to go around and check fields for, say, moisture to see if they need to be watered, or just to see, if there's anything else that needs to be done. We've had problems like a moose coming out on the field and tear up plastic or chew all the tops off the plants. So you kind of got to go with the flow as things go. Strawberries is our biggest seller, and it is our biggest commodity here that we produce. But we also have plums, several varieties, gooseberries, black currants, red currants, white currants. We started with a few cherries and apple trees. And now we're also trying a few vegetables, we've got potatoes put in, and we've tried some spinach and some lettuce, and we also put in some flowers this year to try that out. we harvest our fruit is all hand-picked. For most of our crops are all hand-picked actually. There's nothing that we use machine for, just because the delicate nature of the fruit. And the other thing is, if we had to go in with a machine harvester and harvest a strawberry field, a machine harvester just mows everything. Our guys are usually just going straight down the rows picking their berries. Then there's another guy that comes behind bringing them baskets, and he picks up what they have picked already. He brings that up to a truck and is stored into the truck. And then, say every hour, hour and a half, depending on how many berries they're getting, he'll go up, say every hour and a half to our highway entrance where our marketplace is, and we've got a cooled storage there. And then from there, the lady at the marketplace then picks out the stuff to sell at the market. So if they've got, berries into the little wooden quart baskets, those are going into the cooler and they're more or less direct sale to our farm market here on the farm, or to a grocery store or to Sobeys or whatever. Now you can see here, the guys here that are picking berries, and what they're actually doing is they'll sort through the berries. Our higher quality berries, our bigger ones, we'll keep into these baskets to sell either at a highway or towards a grocery store. And you can see here, that's a pretty good berry, and you keep going and you'll see, little tiny ones like this, and sometimes you'll get like sunburn on the berries, and they'll change kind of a mushy or a weird kind of color, and you can tell that there's something wrong with the berry. And we usually go through and we'll pick off small ones or damaged ones for wine, because Ock Island Winery actually buys a lot of our strawberries for making wine. So we put our better quality, higher quality berries into our baskets to sell at our fresh market, and our wine berries we bag up and we put them right in the deep freeze so they're ready to go for the fall when the winery comes looking for a few berries. So that way we're getting everything sorted right here on the field, and we are getting the best quality for our fresh sales. And we also are meeting our winery requirements as well. And for our U-Pick, we do get a lot of local people here, and local is even provincial, because I was talking to a lady here a little while ago, and she said she used to live in St. John's, and the past 11 years that she was living in St. John's, every year she drove out here to pick her berries because we had the best tasting berries. I've had people from Texas and Japan say they've been around the world and say that we've had the best berries they've ever tasted, and they keep coming back every year. So we do get a lot of tourists, and we do get a lot of local people, but we do get a lot of loyal people coming back and returning to the farm, which is great, because we want to, we want to satisfy people, and we want to give them what they want, which is quality, and that's what we aim for here on the farm: high quality and a high standard, good tasting berry, and nothing but the best for our markets.
Thank you to the Thornleys for letting us visit their farm. We were very excited to show you that video. So next, we'll be visiting an agritourism farm on Pearltown Road in St. John's, Newfoundland, with Michelle and Jim Lester. We'll get to see all of the fun things they get to do on their farm, like taking care of their animals and also having a petting farm. So let's go check it out.
Welcome to the farm. You're now meeting two farmers. This is Farmer Jim and I'm Michelle. We've been farming together for 20 years and we're quite happy here on the farm. We've been able to raise our 3 children and start a successful farm, and we look forward to years to come.
Our farm is a diverse operation. It consists of livestock, vegetables and flowers, but our main focus of late has been on agritourism. Agritourism is a tool that we use as farmers to increase the value and return on products that we produce on our farm.
We were open seasonally in the past, but now we're open year-round. We have a restaurant that opens on the weekends where we serve our own vegetables that we produce here on the farm. And we also cater to weddings, events, anniversary parties, and we do children's birthday parties.
Even in the winter, we'll have sleigh rides and winter activities here on the farm. And of course, the purpose is to bring customers to our farm so we can sell them products that we produce on our farm. In addition to the sleigh ride, they get to come back here in the chalet, and we'll have fresh baked cookies and hot chocolate, and of course there's always Jig's dinner and everything else that we produce here. Sometimes the group that's here eating or taking advantage of our venue will actually see us coming back from the fields with the produce that we'll be serving them for lunch. Both Michelle and I are firm believers that the land we farm is not ours. We're only borrowing it from future generations. So it's very, very important for us to make sure that we take the best possible care of the land. And in doing so, we make sure that our farm's waste is really, really minimal.
So if somebody orders a Hungry Farmer breakfast, the girls are peeling the potatoes to make the hash browns right away. The peelings themselves will go back to feed some of the livestock on the farm and also compost it. And we have a composting program where we mix the vegetable peelings with our coffee grinds, and we use them for organic matter and nutrient supplement for our fields.
In addition to our own waste that we produce on the farm and we recycle into fertilizer, we also collect over 1,000 tons of coffee grounds from a local coffee franchise in the area.
So here today we're actually at the compost grounds. What we're doing today, we are aerating the piles. What that means is we're turning the piles with this machine here. We're putting air into the piles so the bacteria can grow. The mixture in these particular piles is chicken manure, goat manure, coffee grinds, and every now and then a bit of peat moss. These piles here are about six months old. They're just about the right moisture level. We can tell that by you can squeeze them and it still sticks together, but no water runs out of them. This increases the amount of bacterial activity and organic matter and reduces the amount of chemical fertilizers needed in our fields.
Sheep, I guess, for almost 15 years now. When I was still living at home with my parents, I remember I bought a couple of sheep and hid them away in a shed down behind. So I've always had an interest in animals, and you know, now we're in the point of commercializing my interest. My interest in sheep were that they're a very interesting animal. They're probably not known to be the most intelligent farm animal, but they have unique personalities.
The baby piglets, they're about 2 weeks old. They were born on Monday. There's the mom there. These pigs will be fully grown in about probably 3 months. We hay, grain, and mostly the mother's milk.
So I've been involved in the farming business my whole life. We started off, I was in a little laundry basket with my mom while she harvested the vegetables. And then later on, I moved on to in the petting barn. So my little brother, what he does is he picks up the little baby animals and takes care of those, and that's what I used to do. So it's something that all little children enjoy. And then I started working here in the chalet. And we started doing I started waitressing at first, and then after I started waitressing, and then I decided that I wanted to start doing the cooking. Then we started doing the weddings, and that's where I really found what I love. I make it the most magical, rustic, chic, elegant wedding that they could ever imagine.
The number of people that visit the farm varies from month to month or even year to year.
Well, you know, some weeks, of course, are busier than others, like in the springtime during flower season, and I guess people trying to squeeze in the kids' birthday parties just before the holidays. We could have several thousand people visit the farm in 1 week alone. And another busy time of year, of course, is the fall, when people associate harvest festivals, celebrating and picking up their vegetables for the winter. We do have, I think the highest we ever counted was 5,000 people that came through in the course of 4 days. And, one year we done 376 kids' birthday parties. And each one of those kids' birthday parties had a minimum of 15 kids. Now, hopefully, one of these days, we'll see some of those kids coming back here and having their weddings here.
One of the key elements that I found with farming is that you need an education. Today, education is very, very important. And when I graduated high school, I knew that I wanted to do a business degree.
The future looks bright for agritourism. We're young and we're passionate agriculturalists, and we've taken our farm from a traditional vegetable farm to a aquaponics system which is world-class.
Aquaponics is a recirculating aquaculture and plant culture system. Basically, you have large fish tanks which we grow edible fish called tilapia. The water from the fish tanks is pumped out into a plant bed, and on this plant bed we'll have floating styrofoam trays, and in those trays we have plants growing them, and the roots actually are completely suspended in the water. Now, the purpose of that is the plants actually clean the water of nutrients which the fish produce. So the fish produce the nutrients for the plants, and the plants take the nutrients out of the water and give the fish back clean water.
Everybody's happy. I certainly do recommend a career in agritourism. There are such a mixture of specialists needed on a farm, extension services, and on the farm itself. We have scientists, we have marketing and sales, we have decorators, florists, we have farmers, and all sorts of careers. Some of our employees stay on the farm, and some of them will venture off and start farms of their own, and we're very glad to see that.
And they're all essential to the prosperity and growth of our farm. Our sons, one of them is 15 years old and the other is 10, and both of them do their fair share on the farm. In addition to doing daily chores, they also do some of the management. Myself and Michelle can't be everywhere at the one time, so our 15-year-old especially, he's out in the fields making sure the crops are looked after, checking on the animals, and even our 10-year-old, he reports to us as well.
So one of the most enjoyable things that I find about working here on the farm is that every day is different. So we go down to the petting barn and we'll have to take care of the animals. There could be a new baby calf born that morning. We never know when we go in. And then we'll go out into the fields, and it's just amazing watching that one little seed grow into this big, beautiful plant, and knowing that that one plant can feed a whole family.
Thank you, Jim and Michelle, for showing us around your farm and seeing what happens there on a day-to-day basis. So next, we're going to show you a video about some of my favorite wiggly friends, our worms. So we're going to talk about vermicomposting, and we're going to show you how you can make your own vermicomposting kit at home and have worms create their poop or castings to use as fertilizer in your at-home gardens. We have over 80 vermicomposting kits in classrooms across Newfoundland and Labrador. So let's check it out and see how we can make our own at home.
So we're going to show you how to set up your vermicomposting bin. So this is your worm habitat for your composting worms in your classroom. You need a few supplies. They will be provided to you from your Little Green Thumbs coordinator. There's a few things you'll need to find around your school. You will need a drill. You'll need a bit about a ½ an inch. You can get away with a 3/8 inch as well. You'll also need some newspaper. This will be used for the bedding of your worm bin. You'll also need water to moisten your worm bin, and you'll want to gather some food for your worms. So just some veggies, eggshells. You can watch the next video for a little bit more information about what to feed your worms. You should have also had with your kit a Rubbermaid container. This will be the actual habitat for your worm bin. You'll also need a cup or two of potting soil that comes with your garden kit, and of course, your worms. These will be packaged in all different ways. So they might come like this. in a milk jug container. They might come in a box. They might come in a bag. So you'll have about a ½ pound to a pound of worms to start your worm bin. So the first step of setting up your worm bin is drilling holes into your worm bin container. So that's your Rubbermaid container. That's because worms, just like people, have a few essential needs. They need air to survive. So by punching some holes into our worm bin, that's just letting air into the container. Your worms will not try to escape their worm bin into the sterile environment of a classroom. If your worm bin is healthy, this is the perfect environment for a worm to live. It will not try to escape unless something is really wrong with your bin. So don't worry about having the holes. Your worms are not going to come out. Really simple. You want to drill holes in the top layer of the bottom of your bin. You can also drill holes in the top of your bin, but you just want to be careful because if you ever set anything on top of your bin, you don't want to cover up those holes. So the best way to avoid that is to actually drill your holes all along the top of your Rubbermaid container. You want to put about 6 or 7 holes on either of the long sides and about 3 or 4 holes on either side. Really simple. It should be simple to do with your drill. You just want to drill the holes in your Rubbermaid container, first step. Once you drill your holes in your Rubbermaid container, the second step is to rip your newspaper to act as bedding for the worms. So newspaper is absolutely great for the worms. It's non-toxic. Newspapers in Canada and the United States are all printed with vegetable ink, so they're totally safe for your worms. And they provide a nice bedding. They make sure and troubleshoot the bin so that it's not too wet and not too dry. The worms can also eat the newspaper. So if there ever is a long stretch you forget about your worms, they can always eat the newspaper. They will eat the newspaper, and it provides a little bit of grit for their stomach and helps break up some of the food that they're eating. To rip your newspaper, there is a grain in your newspaper and it will be lengthwise. Great activity for kids. Just rip your newspaper into strips. Once you've ripped your newspaper up, you want to give it a bit of a scrunch to give it some volume and to create some air. You want to have about 3 or 4 inches of newspaper in your bin. And now you want to moisten your bedding. You can simply do that in the bin itself. Just add probably about a cup of water, but add it as you go. Scrunch up your bedding. You want the moisture level to be about the moisture of a wrung out sponge. So you don't want it dripping wet. If you squeeze your bedding and you see water come out, that means it's too wet. If you add too much water, just add more bedding. If you add too much bedding, just add more water. So once you have your bedding about the moisture level of a wrung out sponge, you want to add your soil. Now your soil functions in a few different ways. Your soil will also create some grit for the worms when they're eating. So they will eat some of the organic matter in your soil, and it will provide a little bit of grit in their tummies to actually break it down. So worms do not have teeth. They're actually just sucking the food after the bacteria has started to break it down in your bin. So just add that in. You just want to create like a coating over top of the bedding. So now you have added your bedding, you've added your soil. Now it's time to add your worms. You simply want to create a corner, moving the bedding out of the way. Add in your worms and cover them up with a layer, probably about a 1-inch layer of your bedding. So if your worms have been fed in the last little while, you can simply now just leave your worms for about a week, let them get acclimatized to the bin. Make sure that you put the lid back on the bin. Worms do not like light, so they will move away from the light. If you need to feed your worms now, then you simply want to, again, move some of the bedding out of the way in one of the corners of your bin. Add your food. It's best you can chop it up or if it's food that's been left for a little while, add about a liter of food. Yogurt containers are a great place to store your food before you add them. And now simply cover up the food with the bedding. You always want to make sure that any food you add to your bin is fully covered up with the bedding. So that's what can lead to smells and then can lead to issues is leaving that food exposed. So just make sure that it's fully covered up. There you have it. You have a very healthy bin of worms, very happy bin of worms. You can just put the lid on, store it somewhere that the temperature is going to stay pretty even. Worms love just a room temperature spot. And you also want to leave it somewhere that there's not going to be people walking by constantly. So any of the vibrations, if you're putting it on the floor, somewhere out of the way. Next time you feed them, think about a week, you can always just pull back the bedding, see how far they've got on the food that you've added, and you're ready to go. That's the start of your vermicomposting adventure.
Thank you for joining us today with Agriculture in the Classroom, Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you for visiting a berry farm with us, learning more about agritourism, and learning how to make your own vermicomposting bin at home. If you'd like to learn more about vermicomposting or anything you've seen on the show, you can check out aitcnl.ca. Be sure to join us next time for Agriculture in the Classroom, Newfoundland and Labrador.
This program is brought to you by